Hello, welcome back. This is going to be a brief video. It's not going to be like a full lesson. I'm just going to quickly go over. Again, you have all the answers for this review, I'm sure. But this is just going to be quickly going over how we get to those answers and what are the steps taken to do that. And again, it's important that we do this. It's important that we do this review because this is going to be very similar to the questions that you're going to see on the well, I say test, but we're not sure what kind of test that's going to be yet. On the assessment, however that assessment or whatever form or shape that assessment may take. So now, okay, simplify each of the following expressions. We can see here that this is a warm-up, so should be fairly straightforward, hopefully. First thing we're going to see, we have a term outside a bracket, so we're going to have to multiply each term inside the bracket with 2x. So let's do that first. 10x to the power of 3 minus 4x squared plus 14x. And the same thing we're going to do here. Take this negative 3x and multiply it into these things, or these terms I should say. Minus 12x to the power of 3 plus 6x. And now we shall combine like terms. Minus 2x to the power of 3 minus 4x squared plus 20x is my final answer. So again, hopefully we see how that was done. Here we have a crab claw or a clam question where we have two brackets that are multiplied by each other. So we have to kind of use the crab claw method. We do 2x times 3x. Or if I were to split this out, I have to multiply 2x into the second bracket. I also have to multiply 5y into the second bracket. So 2x times 3x is 6x squared minus 16xy. 5y times 3x is 15xy, which I'm going to put under here so that the like terms match up. And here I have a minus 40y squared. Let's add those things together. Minus xy minus 40y squared. This is my final answer. Okay. Again, division here we learned in a previous lesson. We divide each term in the numerator by the denominator. So we have a 15x to the power of 3 divided by 5x minus 10x squared divided by 5x plus 20x divided by 5x. So let's put all this together. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 3 minus 1 is 2. Negative 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. 20 and 5 just give me, a 4. Plus 4. X divided by 1 minus 1 is 0. X to the power of 0 is 1. And this is my answer. Okay, division again. 24, negative 8, negative 3. I always put the negative on top. X to the power of 1, x to the power of 1. I'm doing division. 1 minus 1 would give me 0. So x to the power of 0 is 1. So all I'm left with is 3y minus, this is the minus sign that I'm writing here, negative 35 divided by negative 7 is positive 5. 2 minus 1 is 1, so I have positive 5y in this bracket here. And again, this is just negative 3y minus 5y, which is negative 8y. All right, so let's practice now some factoring as before. Sorry, to continue where we left off. We're going to factor this by looking for the greatest common factor first. So we see here we have a negative 15 and a negative 30. Now when everything is negative, it's good practice to factor out the negative as well. So we're going to factor out a negative. 15 and 30, hopefully we can see that the greatest common factor is 15, because 15 times 2 is 30, which leaves us with an x, because I'm going to do negative 15x divided by negative 15, and minus 30y divided by negative 15 leaves me with a positive 2y. So this is my final answer. Again, we're just going to get to the more complicated ones here. So we can see here that there's no numbers, so I just have to look for my variable. The common factor, the lowest power of x here is 3. So that becomes my greatest common factor. And then I just did this divided by x to the power of 3, giving me x to the power of 3, 6 minus 3. And this divided by x to the power of 3, giving me x to the power of 0 or 1, which I do have to write here because important, plus 1. I put a star beside this question, very important, because most often people will forget to write this plus 1. But because the 1 is a term on its own and not being multiplied into anything else, I do have to put it in there, because you'll see here that if we expand this way, we do get back. If the 1 has to be there though. So very important to see that. Again, this is hopefully all familiar. Whoops, x squared is 1. Where I found my greatest common factor, both of them are negative, so I am going to take a negative out. Divide this by negative 6x squared, divide this by negative 6x squared, and I get what's inside my bracket. Oh, look at this big question. 5 and 2 and 2, I think. Which leaves me with a 4m3 minus 3mn squared plus 1n. This, I believe, is my final answer. And again, I just found my greatest common factor by looking at the numbers. 5, the lowest number here, goes into 15 and 20, so that is my greatest common factor, or the number part. And then for the variable part, I look at m. I have m to the power of 5, m to the power of 3, m to the power of 2. So the lowest power there goes in here. N to the power of 2, 4, and 3, so lowest power goes in my greatest common factor. And then I just divide each term by the greatest common factor. Now these are E and F for the ones that we haven't seen before, but it's very, very similar. Instead of imagine this was x to the power of 12 plus x to the power of 14. What would you do? You would take the lowest power of x as your greatest common factor, and then you would divide this by x to the power of 12, which would give me 1, and this by x to the power of 12, which would give me x squared. Very same way you're going to do this. So this is basically going to be 2 to the power of 12 and 2 to the power of 14. So my greatest common factor becomes 2 to the power of 12, which is the lower number. Then I divide each term here by my greatest common factor. So 2 to the power of 12 divided by 2 to the power of 12. 12 minus 12 is 0, which 2 to the power of 0 is 1. 2 to the power of 14 divided by 2 to the power of 12 is 2 to the power of 2. But I am going to simplify this because I can. 1 plus 4 is equal to 2 to the power of 12 times 5, or 5 times 2 to the power of 12. This is my final answer. So I'll give you a couple seconds pause, just so that you can pause the video and try this question, question F. But again, you're looking for the lowest power to take out as a common factor, which would be, in this case, 22. Then you divide each term by that greatest common factor. 25 minus 22 is 3, minus 3 to the power of 0 is 1. 27 minus 1 is 26 times 3 to the power of 22 is my final answer. Find a simplified expression for perimeter. Hopefully we've done questions like this before. This is just 2 times 4x plus 2 times 3x plus 5, because I'm doing this plus this over here, and that plus that over over there. 8x plus, oops, 6x plus 10. Again, I have to use my distributive property here when I have a 2 outside the bracket. Collect like terms, and there's your answer, units. Find the missing dimension. Now, this is one we haven't done in class before, but this is relating to our, because it relates to division, because I'm given the area, I'm given the width, I have to find the length. And hopefully we can see here that the length is going to be the area divided by the width, right? Because, well, the length times the width give me the area, and if I have to isolate for L, I'm going to divide both sides by W. And so getting L equals A divided by W. Three minus 1 is 2. This is the expression for my length. Again, whenever you have a kind of, this is not technically a word problem, but whenever you have a problem with context, you should be giving a therefore statement. The perimeter is the length, or missing dimension is something like that, just so that you know. Again, the question of is it necessary, shouldn't really, it's always safe to do so. It doesn't take a lot of time. Just do it. If you have a doubt as to whether you should do it or not do it, just do it just in case. It can never hurt, right? And again, we have some more questions here. Simple. Again, we're going to multiply 3 over 4 times 16x minus, 3 over 4 times negative 8y minus 1 over 3 times 9x. Be very careful here. It's minus 1 over 3 again times the negative 3y. This minus 1 over 3 gets multiplied into the negative 3y as well. So again, here, hopefully we're okay with the fact that when I do 3 over 4 times 16, I'm not going to multiply the 16 into the 3 and the 4. 16x is in the numerator, right? If something's not in a fraction, it's automatically assumed to be in the numerator. The only thing that's in the denominator here is 4, so I can cross cancel that with the 16. 3 times 4 is 12x minus 6y minus 3x plus y. So hopefully we'll see how I did that. And again, this is just for you to check the steps as to which you should have hopefully practiced this before on your own. 9x minus 5y is my final answer. Right? Very simple. I'm just expanding my application of distributive property to include fractions. Again, positive 2 over 3 times this, times this, times this. Positive 2 over 3 times 1x over 5, negative 7 over 8y, 16 over 11z. Again, hopefully we can see a clear distinction here between the numerator and denominator when you write it like this. 2x over 15. Nothing to, I can cross cancel something over here, which I will. So minus 7 over 12y. And I can cross cancel something here, plus 4 over 11z. Now, you might ask, okay, is there any point to finding a common denominator here and adding these up? The answer is no, because, so I'll give you a couple seconds to think about why, because these are not like terms. They have different variables. and therefore they cannot be added. So there's really no point in finding a common denominator and combining these in any way. However, they all have to be in lowest terms, which they are, because I have done my cross-canceling correctly here, but that you have to make sure that that is indeed the case. Now, this is again one of the questions that most people tend to struggle with. It's not an easy question to do, but however, we will be working through this very carefully. Again, it's important not to jump too quickly into these things. Always start simplifying from the inside. So let's look at this. What's my first bracket, or my innermost bracket is this x minus 3. Outside that x minus 3 is a negative 4. So first here comes multiplication. Negative 4 times x, negative 4 times the negative 3. So everything else I'm going to keep the same as for now. Don't touch anything up till that point where I'm actually doing simplification, after you've identified what your first step should be. Minus 4x plus 12. Now, our second step. Again, now I have a bracket here. I have something outside that bracket, in this case a negative 2. I have to multiply it into everything inside the bracket. However, this step is, again, technically it's optional, but if you do see it, I'd highly recommend doing it. Simplifying anything inside this bracket first. I have a 2x minus 4x. I'm going to combine that to give me a negative 2x. Distributive property. Combine like terms. Don't forget, evaluate for x equals negative 2. Boom. That's my answer. Again, this is a interesting question. Again, these are extension questions, not necessarily something that you'll see in common practice. But again, it's good to be able to do some of these things. So let's look at this question. 5 to the power of 20 minus 5 to the power of 18. Again, go back to question number 2, E and F, if you're not seeing how I do that. To factor the top, I will take my lowest power and then divide. So this is left with 5 to the power of 2 minus 1 divided by 5 to the power of, here I have 16 is my lowest power, and I'm left with 5 minus 1, I believe. So let's simplify these things first. So here I have 5 to the power of 18 times 25 minus 1 is 24. 5 to the power of 16 times 4. So now again, I'm not done yet because I can cross cancel, which gives me with a 6. And I can also simplify 5 to the power of 18. So I'm left with a 6 on top. And then I also have a 5 to the power of 18 divided by 5 to the power of 16, which is 18 minus 16 is 2, which is 6 times 25, which is 150. So you'll see how this complicated question the answer is actually 150, but if you actually attempted to put that into a calculator, it would almost be impossible, because you'd have to put 5 to the power of 20 into a calculator, which is just a ridiculously large number. Subtract that with 5. Your calculator may be able to do it if it's good, but it would be really not ideal to show your work, and for a simple answer, it's much easier to do it this way. And this is why we're learning these kinds of things. Okay, again, the numerator lower power is 99. Do division. The denominator lower power is 101. Do division. By do division, I mean divide each of these by whatever I have as my greatest common factor, which is how I get the term in the inside of the brackets. Now let's simplify this. 1 plus 8 gives me 9. 1 minus 4 gives me negative 3. Now let's see what I can cross cancel. I can cross cancel this 9 and this negative 3 to give me negative. Again, I'm moving the negative to the top because I like my negatives in the numerator. So I get negative 3 multiplied by 2 to the power of negative 2 because I do 99 minus 101. And now, again, we're not really done yet simplifying because I have a negative power and I don't like negative powers. So again, this 2 to the power of negative 2, I'm going to rewrite as 1 over 2 squared. Hopefully we remember that from our exponent laws. You take the reciprocal or the flip of 2, which is 1 over 2, and you make the power positive, so it's 2 squared, which now leaves me with a negative 3. We'll put the squared over all the 1 over 2 just in case. A negative 3 times 1 squared. So, okay, now here, let's look at very carefully what's in the numerator. I saw a lot of mistakes on this in our first test. Negative 3 is in the numerator, negative 3. 1 squared in the numerator, times 1, that's just 1, so that's the only thing in my numerator. 2 squared, right, in my denominator. This is my final answer. All right, so hopefully everybody's okay with that. Those are extension questions. It's unlikely you'll see many of them on the assessment, but it's good to know these things just in case. Simplify to a single power, very easy. Division means subtraction. The biggest mistake I'll see here is that there's no brackets around these things. When you subtract, you're subtracting you're subtracting x minus 5. And when you subtract x minus 5, it's important to put brackets around x minus 5. Because otherwise you're just subtracting the x and then somehow adding the 5. And that's not what we're doing here. There has to be a bracket around x minus 5 and a bracket around x minus 8. Again, negative 1 times x is minus x, negative 1 times 5, positive 5, negative 1 times x, negative 1 times negative 8, positive 8. Combine like terms, 2x minus x is 0x, which I'm just going to ignore, 4 to the power of 13. Ooh, this looks fancy. Again, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do this power of a power law, means I multiply. So I do half multiplied by 4x minus 2. Hopefully we can see that half multiplied by 4x minus 2 is the same as 4x minus 2 divided by 2. Right, then I do the division, while still keeping this little bit untouched, no space. For division, divide each term in the numerator by the denominator. 2x minus 1 times 5 minus 2x. (2x minus 2x is 0x, 3 to the power of 4. This is within reason to calculate. I'll put 81. It does say evaluate, so technically I should be... Oh, this is a plus 8. How silly of me. I was thinking why that was weird. So this now becomes a minus 8. This is negative 3, which is 1 over 4 to the power of 3, which is 1 over 64. Whoops. Okay. That was my mistake. I copied the question wrong. But you'll see that if you have 4 to the power of negative 3, you should take the reciprocal, 1 over 4 to the power of positive 3, which is 1 to the power of 3, which is 1. 4 to the power of 3 is 64 in the denominator. So there we have it. Oh, whoops. I started to do something, which is just combine the powers, but then it is very important to not fall into predetermined patterns and to just assume that the question makes sense, because we'll see here after I finish erasing this that we have different bases, and so I cannot in fact combine these very similarly. But my 8 I'm going to write as 2 to the power of 3, and this is a key step which we'll remember from our exponent laws as writing in this way. Now I'm going to use power of a power. This is 2 to the power of 3x divided by 2 to the power of 3x minus 4. And now I can use exponent laws because the bases are the same. Don't forget the brackets. This is what I was pointing to at the beginning. And that is my answer. How did I get 8 is 2 to the power of 3? Hopefully this is something we become familiar with over time, just, recognizing simple, like smaller numbers as with powers of even smaller numbers. But yeah, I'm not going to go over the homework. Hopefully this is a good review. If you had any questions with this, hopefully this helped. But again, it was hopefully we went over the lessons mainly in detail and then completed that. So again, everybody, have fun at home. Don't work too hard, I guess. Stay safe and healthy, and inside while this thing rolls over. So peace out. I will talk to everybody again soon.